Welcome back. It's time for us to go into our main issue of the day now. Nigeria's communications minister has distanced himself or his ministry from the now botched data tariff hike.
The minister, Adebayo Shitu, who says he isn't defending the act, insists that he was not a party to the decision. The minister commended the Senate for taking prompt action on the matter.
As Minister of Communications, I am not supposed to be part of the decision making as to cost of data or even cost of phone calls. So I had the announcement like any other Nigerian had the announcement. And on inquiry, because I'm not trying to defend NCC and I'm not trying to defend the operators. My duty is to provide as objective, information as possible. I am told.
Nigeria's communications minister has distanced himself or his ministry from the now botched data tariff hike.
The minister, Adebayo Shitu, who says he isn't defending the act, insists that he was not a party to the decision. The minister commended the Senate for taking prompt action on the matter.
As Minister of Communications, I am not supposed to be part of the decision making as to cost of data or even cost of phone calls. So I had the announcement like any other Nigerian had the announcement. And on inquiry, because I'm not trying to defend NCC and I'm not trying to defend the operators. My duty is to provide as objective, information as possible. I am told, and I'm still going to confirm this from NCC, which, introduced a new fare. I am told that in the West African sub-region today, the cost of data is the lowest in the West African sub-region. And because phone calls and data are a universal, phenomenon, operators necessarily have to pay for their own services at the dollar rate. So if the value of Nigerian currency goes down, it means that for operators to be able to pay, those who provide them services outside Nigeria, they have to pay in dollars, not in naira. So for them to be able to operate, they must have, reasonable fares for the services being provided in Nigeria.
All right, you heard the minister there, Minister of Communication, where he said he's not trying to defend anyone and all of that, but he's giving a reason why there can likely be an increase in the first place.
And it almost makes you feel like he's talking from both sides of the mouth.
All right, this is the direction. This could be the reason why there should be a hike in price.
But he's not part of it.
I'm not aware. I'm not part of it. I'm not. In fact, I heard, just like any other person heard on radio and newspaper. Wow. All right, we have in the studio with us founder, Consumer Advocacy Foundation of Nigeria, Shola Salako. Shola, it's good to see you this morning.
Always great to be with you guys. Good morning.
I wonder what you make of all this. I mean, this new twist. First, we hear that there is a planned tariff hike, and then we hear it's a price floor, and then you have the minister, Adebayo Shitu, saying he was not even part of this decision in the first place, and he's not even part of the so-called cancellation, or is it, what's that word now?
They didn't cancel, they only suspended.
Suspension, thank you.
It's hilarious if it wasn't so pathetic. We've had various reasons for the drama that we encountered in the last 3 days. NCC's argument is that they are trying to prevent the big telcos from anti-competitive actions. From what NCC put out in the release that I read, the big telcos they sell data in bulk to smaller business, the smaller ones, the smaller data service providers, and they sell to them at a rate. And because the big telcos also are in the retail market, they sell to the retail market cheaper than the rate that they give the bulk data to the smaller data providers. And so NCC says that is anti-competition, and because we want the smaller businesses to survive, they are now giving a floor, what they call it, something...
Floor price.
Floor price, yes. A floor price of 90 kobo.
Floor price, of course, would mean the lowest that they can charge.
As the lowest benchmark.
Yeah, but meanwhile, Nigerians have service providers who are giving them data at 21 kobo, 54 kobo, and then NCC says you can't sell for lower than 90 kobo. Where have you heard that before? So, in trying to stop anti-competition, according to them, they also use tools that are anti-competitive, because when you start fixing prices, then it's no longer, there's no competition there.
In this case, I was even thinking that the operators will be the ones saying, well, let us increase the price, and then NCC, that is the regulatory agency, would have said, no, we have to keep it down, as the case may be. But this is the other way around.
Whose interest is NCC protecting? Because I believe that as the regulator, the primary responsibility of NCC is to protect the Nigerian consumer. So when it looks as if you would now prioritize some small businesses, according to you, within your sector, above the benefit of the consumer, we have to start asking questions. That's, by the way. Then the telcos come up and say the argument that the minister is making, well, it's we're now paying more money for whatever infrastructure, as they always say. And I have always told them, you cannot make the infrastructure argument, because as a businessman, when you enter into that business, at the time when you're setting up your pricing, you have taken all of that into consideration. So the Nigerian consumer is already paying for the fact that you don't have power, that you use generator all the time. The Nigerian consumer is already paying for the fact that you feel that your structures are being vandalized whenever it is, and the vandalization has really reduced. Before, when people didn't understand, and I asked them yesterday, what are you doing to educate Nigerians about not vandalizing your structures? Do you understand?
Yes.
So you've already captured all of that in your cost. So the price at which you have come to market is already inclusive of all of this cost. So making that as an argument, I don't get it.
But the minister is talking about the change of non-availability of Forex in the first place, and of course inflation and all of that. It must reflect on the price that the consumer has to pay at the end of the day.
The problem with this particular move is that everybody was working in silos. Nobody had thought, let's all put this argument together, let's engage, and let's explain why. We just woke up a few days ago and heard it was like a threat. Data is going to, in fact, I found out because MTN sent me a text to say their customer, due to NCC's directive.
That is the part that many Nigerians cannot understand.
That we have to, your prices of data would change from the 1st
of December.
And then we're looking at, I think, NCC directive. Why would NCC be directing you to change without any arguments? You know, they were taking Nigerian consumers for granted. They thought it's always the way it is. You know, just throw it at them, they will deal with it. Because we dealt with the fuel price increase. Yeah, so they feel, oh, they will just deal with it. Nobody would, but they didn't bank on the fact that Nigerians are becoming more. I'm so proud of Nigerians this morning because obviously everybody is starting to understand that if you keep looking and you don't say something, you will keep having to deal with.
But how are you sure? How can you guarantee that these telcos, whether the big ones or the small ones, will not do a backdoor thing and, you know, take some of these deductions that you might not want to pay too much attention to?
That's why I said to Nigerians yesterday, you need to pay attention. There are free apps on Play Store and on Apple Store that would help you count your data.
Okay.
So just download them and install them and check those apps. They will tell you how much data you are using every day, so you can immediately gauge to see, oh, I think I'm spending more, I'm using up more data than I should, because what have I done on my device today? So we need to pay attention, you know. Vigilance, they say.
Yes.
It's the only way you can keep protecting yourself. But I know that this is not the end of this issue. What we need to be talking about now is, why do you need to increase
in the
data?
first place?
Look, this is data that globally is becoming a commodity.
Yeah.
Globally, in fact, UN is in the process of declaring access to data a fundamental human right, because the whole of the world is starting to run on data now.
Data.
Your life is dependent on data, medically,
Everything.
financially, every education, everything is on data. So everybody is moving to the point where you don't need to pay for data, and Nigeria is moving in the direction where you need to pay more. I mean, it's very curious.
It is.
All right. Now, when NCC talks about trying to give new entrants some level of consideration as they are entering the market, as the case may be, they sound to be kind of under pressure from these new entrants. So
Who are
to
these
say.
new entrants?
Fine. That's
the question.
Very good question.
That's the big question.
Why
And
should protecting them be the primary consideration for NCC?
Providing level playing
No,
ground.
you
or
can't
playing
provide. You
field.
see, look, this is one of the reasons. I know I've said this before. This is one of the reasons why I feel that if the Senate is going to help you, they helped on this one. We should commend them.
because it took the Senate to say no.
Yeah,
Status quo has to be
at least
maintained.
they were awake on this one, and we recognize that. But we want them to provide more leadership. There is a bill in that Senate. It's called the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Bill. If that bill was enacted and the president signs it into law and implements, this kind of decision will not be left only to NCC.
It would take care of itself.
Exactly, because it is their it is their business to evaluate where there are anti-competition issues. NCC,
And there's a lot of that going on in the Nigerian
Plenty
economy,
of it.
whether you're
Plenty.
talking about commodities market,
everywhere,
or telcos and the rest of it.
everywhere. NCC cannot be a neutral arbiter in this situation, because NCC, like I always say, makes money from the telcos. So if you're making money from them, you would also protect your own interests. So the consumer interest is not primary to
All right,
NCC.
we'll come back to this. Let's go on a break, and we'll come back to dwell more on this issue. Stay with us on TVC Breakfast. All right, thanks for staying with us on TVC Breakfast. We are discussing the planned hike in data price by the NCC, although it has been suspended so far, but we're looking at the implications. We have Shola Salako with us in the studio discussing this. Now let's get into this report now. Nigerians warn that any increase in price by NCC will only add to their troubles.
Yes, and TVC News correspondent Olive Nwoke Onokwai reports.
The resolution is that we have asked the NCC and the service providers to stop the issue of the increase, and we have asked our committees to go into it and discuss and find out what exactly are the issues. But invariably, the end result, I assure you, will be that we will resist this position with all the seriousness that it deserves.
Brought for the intervention of the Nigerian Senate, December 1st, 2016 would have marked the commencement of a new price regime in data services provided by telecommunication operators. The service providers had rolled out messages to their numerous subscribers, intimating them of NCC's directive for a new price regime in data services. Like wildfires, the unpleasant news has circulated. Telecommunication subscribers in the nation's capital expressed anger over what they describe as poor service by telecommunications operators. They insist there is no justification for a price hike.
That is unconstitutional, that is inhuman. You don't begin to do unnecessary tax increment in the period of recession.
Data increment is very, very unfortunate. That's the only thing I can say. They don't want us to be happy in this country. That is just the truth.
Although the NCC has suspended the plan, Nigerians maintain the regulatory agency has lost focus of its primary responsibility. They say the agency should be more concerned with monitoring and ensuring consumers get value for money.
The common man are suffering on the road, and trying to add more charges to their tariff they use on their phone is unreasonable. I feel the government should actually direct their attention to something else, not the tariff.
Meaningful Nigerians to step in, because if they are not going to step on it now, we are going to organize the mother of all rallies against it now, because this is completely unacceptable.
Nigeria is ranked 7th in the world and 1st in Africa in internet usage. This is according to Internet Watch statistics. However, the country pays twice as much as other African countries and other developed countries for data, yet the service provided does not match the cost borne by Nigerians. Olive Nwoke Onokwai, TVC News, Abuja.
Well, that's really interesting bit that our reporter Olive said there, that Nigeria actually pays more than her neighbors in the West African region. But we heard the minister earlier say that Nigerians actually pay, the lowest. How do you...
The jury is out. I figured that. I want to find out from them how they came about their statistics. I know that data is one of the cheapest. In fact, my niece came over for my nephew's wedding last week from the US. Her telco actually gave her, I don't know, maybe it's like 400 gig free data while she was out of the country. So, I mean, so it was cheaper for her to be on data than be on voice. So I don't know why our own is always inverted.
Is it a more fundamental issue that is wrong here, that we don't seem to be a service-oriented people, as it were, in the first place? And so it's reflecting in all kinds of things, you know, where you don't think that the customer's happiness is paramount.
Well, it's because they get away with murder and because of the fact that we still have government structures who have not come to understand that consumer index actually should be the thermometer for measuring how good your economy works or doesn't work. You know, in Nigeria, we've been very dependent on other things apart from spending. Okay? We've been dependent, it's oil that's been the mainstay of our economy. In America, when they were in a crisis, what did President Obama do? He put money so much in the hands of people to go keep spending. They just want people to keep spending. Here in Nigeria, they don't care whether you spend or not because that's not the money that government primarily depends on. So now government's mentality is needing to change. Okay? It's because it has not gotten to that point yet. That's why they will just arbitrarily take decisions like this that would affect consumers. Because look, what would have happened if this is the only sector right now that is very vibrant. That's where a lot of spending is going on. A lot of businesses ride on telcos now. People sit in their homes and on internet they make money. They do. I'm not talking of the fraudulent ones. There are a lot of legitimate businesses riding on the back of data. So the government sits down and thinks we need money. Where is money happening in the sector? This place, go tax it. Now what you don't understand is that when you tax that, you shrink that market because what you do is that the purchasing power of the people is limited. So you shrink that market again. And instead of getting us out of the recession, we just be going deeper into it. So we need government to be more creative about how they access whatever monies they want to access, because at the back of all of this is somebody thinking we need more money for government. We heard the CBN governor say the other day that we're going to start taxing voice calls after every 3 minutes.
Yes.
I mean, when I heard that, I thought he must be kidding, because when you're making calls, your first 3 minutes, I'm not even sure whether you have connected or not. Okay? So you have, as soon as you make the call, they start charging you. And you're still saying, hello, hello, can you hear me? I can't hear you.
With network poor connectivity.
Exactly. So by the time you actually now establish the fact that, okay, now this is the reason why I called, that's when you start taxing me.
That's a very funny,
and you know, Nigerians can actually make call. You just call, hello, how is the family? How is your son?
Especially don't take offense, I'm a Yoruba woman, bearing the name Ngozi anyway. You know, by the time you go, you
know, you ask for all the children and all the chickens in the house. I hope everybody is okay.
But
did you eat yesterday?
And then the tax
kicks in. That is what you actually need Nigerians to be doing at this time.
Yes.
You need consumers to have confidence enough to go out and spend the little money that they have. So if you now keep taking more than they are willing to, and you are not giving them good service, and you are still asking them to pay more for that, everybody will start holding back.
Exactly.
And once they hold back,
and then it shrinks the volume of business that should have.
That's what I'm saying. That shrinks the economy.
But let's play the devil's advocate. I can imagine a government official, especially at the NCC or the Ministry of Communication, saying, okay, so what are the other creative ways that you think we can actually raise money to help government's revenue?
if the government is looking for creative ways, there are a lot of people who have creative ideas. When you think you are the only one who knows what is best, that's when you put yourself in a tight fix. One area where all the other governments in the world make money is taxes. In Nigeria, our tax compliance is next to nothing. So if government wants to make money, what government should be doing is creatively capturing more people within the tax net. But because they know that that will take a whole lot of work and a lot of people don't want to do work, they just want money right now, it's best to go look where there seems to be free money flowing. And that seems to be like the telco sector for now, because everybody's calling, everybody's on data, everybody's doing Facebook and all these things that we used to keep our lives.
Nigeria is the highest in Africa and 7th in the world.
So it's easier for you to go in that direction and say, go and make money from there. See what's happening with the ports. You remember that there was a time when the ports was making stupendous money? Suddenly we're hearing all kinds of stories about the fact that, because of one thing, the ports are not. Because you went in there and you overtaxed them or constricted the sector in such a way that people are nobody wants to import anything anymore. Do you? Because the cost of bringing it in, clearing it, all those kind of things has become exorbitant. And so people are...
Maybe that's a good thing in itself, don't you think?
Well, it depends on what it is that you're importing. Because we were making money from the poor.
But don't also forget that people are not importing things. There are lots of smuggling taking place right now. We're talking about rice after now. So let me bring in Fola in here, so she can give us a perspective of reaction on social media. Hello, good morning.
Good morning. So I mean, in the time when the price of everything is going up, we can't afford to have data. You know, the price of data tariffs going up too. So you can imagine the shock and the pain in our chest.
Talk about love in a time of recession.
Exactly. So you can imagine the shock and the pain in our chests, because data means a lot to us as Nigerians.
I know some persons who can be on social media for 24 hours.
24/7. Yeah, I don't know if I'm one of those people.
Who can do that.
Mike, I don't know if you're talking about me. Okay. Well, moving away from me, Mike. Yeah. Let's see what some people are saying online. Okay, Ade of Nigeria says, the NCC erred, trying to fix data plan prices in the most liberalized and most competitive industry, telecom. Namdi Obinwanne says, Nigeria never fails to provide shock value, never. A communication minister has no idea what the NCC is up to and data fees were to go up. Badamosi Adeyemi says, just read the statement by the NCC on the stoppage of the planned increase in data price, and you see why Nigeria is where it is. Okay, Amare Ohiozoje says, Nigeria's NCC suspends data price increase. Now get back to tackling the other issues. Hashtag Nigeria. Adeyemi Samuel says, Nigeria's NCC suspends data price increase. Power of social media. And the last one here, a very cheeky one from Aremu. He says, Nigeria's NCC suspends data price increase. Is it a good decision? No, we want data increment. Feeling silly. Shalom. Wow. I've had a conversation, or I've had conversations about this with a few people, and one thing sticks out. People are a bit worried because the word is suspends, not cancel. Or, you know. So, should we be worried?
Yes, we should, actually. Okay. I want to raise everybody's blood pressure. Very good. Let you be aware that this is not Uhuru yet. We just won a battle. We haven't won the war.
Right.
The war is still raging. And we need to stay on this issue. And I'm glad that TVC and other media are not letting off. You can't back down. You have to keep this thing on the front burner. Every angle must be looked at. Let these people come and explain to Nigerians why you think we should be paying more for something that everybody else in the world is paying less of. You know? Right. So we need to keep this conversation going. And in the process, that's when we'll find solutions to it. Because it is while the discussion is going on that somebody will be able to come up with creative ideas about how we can get round this issue without having to add pressure to the Nigerians. Because right now, purchasing power in Nigeria is shrinking. There's too much pressure on this. And we can't afford. Where would they get the extra money from? That means they will have to leave something else that may be essential to their lives to be able to buy this, because this is now where everybody meets, where everybody does business. Where if it wasn't for social media, some families would be will be totally broke.
Great.
Because, I mean, people who make beads will post their beads on social, somebody will see it and somebody will order it. It's no longer an elitist thing. It's essential.
For the masses.
Yeah.
It is
And I'm sure
right
the quality of the internet in Nigeria is something that Mike and Ngozi will want to take you up on
exactly.
later.
We'll be talking about that for long. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
All right, don't forget, now we'll be going on a break, and when we come back, we'll dwell more on this. But top of the hour will be time for us to go for the news update, and Michael Nath will take us there. Stay with us on TVC Breakfast.
It's almost not making sense to me. I wonder if it makes sense to you when they talk about further consultation. Does that mean there was not enough consultation before even
Now, I don't know whether they consulted anybody in the first instance, but let's face facts. In a deregulated, a truly deregulated market, it is not the business of the regulator to determine the cost of providing service for the service providers. Because I may be able to source my funding and whatever, we need to break these cartels. The idea of all pulling together to say the cost for doing this is general to all of us is faulty. Everybody should go there and go and find out how to do their own businesses.
Win as much chunk of the market as you can.
Exactly, so that pricing can also become a means of competition.
Because remember when all of them started in the first one, in the early 2000s, what the first one, we knew how much we bought SIM cards at first.
Oh, you don't even want
and then the others came and slashed and brought down everything.
We need a properly deregulated environment there. We don't need people bonding together, which is
all
why
right.
the competition
let's take a quick time out with Michael Nath.
All right, if you're just joining us, you're watching TVC Breakfast, and we are discussing the planned hike in the price of data in Nigeria, although he's been suspended by the Senate, or the Senate has called for the suspension, so he's been suspended. And NCC saying they want to still carry out some more consultation to see how they can go about it. We have Shola Salako with us in the studio, and we are discussing this. Now, Shola, we were talking about the issue of consultation before we went on break. Now, if we have to really, okay, fine, let us consult. Who are the persons to really consult with?
Since the money is going to come out of the consumer's pocket, I think any wise regulator should be consulting with the consumers. You should be asking us, look, these are the issues. But I actually was saying before we went on break, it should not be the responsibility of NCC to determine a floor pricing for how much services can be put out there, if we're really in a truly deregulated market. Because these are competitors. That means that I may be able to go to market cheaper because I have been able to run some efficient structure. And somebody else may not be able to do that. So that means people would come and buy my own because it's cheaper. And some people I prefer to stay with that person because that person feels I can provide you better quality of service. You should allow people to truly compete.
And all of this enhances efficiency.
Exactly. So I don't understand why NCC should be the one negotiating with the consumers about what the floor pricing for something should be. Let them go and check. Somebody might be able to source their own FX from some other places that you don't tell. So if you now put a floor price, that means that somebody will be making undue profit because he could be more efficient and save more money. But since you have said floor price, it's not going to be nice. And then you are even saying this is a floor price. That means you cannot sell below
a certain figure.
You should be setting a ceiling price,
and not
a floor price. So on that, I don't know how NCC is going to make this argument and is going to jail.
And where does the forces of demand and supply,
the market, they're interfering with it.
Absolutely.
All right, let's create a scenario here. Ngozi was asking a question earlier on. Now, this is just suspension. It hasn't gone off yet. So, but what if in a situation where, okay, Shola Salako has said it's not the work or the duty of NCC to be the one determining that, all right, from our side as government, we're going to increase the tariff and put the burden on the telcos so they can pass on the burden the way they want to. What if that kind of scenario comes up?
Actually, I think that was actually what they were trying to do. Don't forget that we still have a bill in that same Senate, and I'm hoping the senators are listening. If you are able to tell the telco, the NCC to suspend tariff increase, please throw that bill that is pending, that is going to put a 9% tax on our voice calls out of the window because it's about the same thing. Now, this idea was to make the service providers pay more taxes. The service providers are smart. They pushed it at the consumers, and they knew, because they knew the consumers would push back against it. In fact, I read somewhere that NCC says it's going to sanction them because they were trying to blackmail NCC. That it was actually an increase that was supposed to be within their structures. It wasn't supposed to be passed to the consumer. You know, so now I don't have a problem with NCC having challenges with regulating its own industry. We will know whether it is NCC that is regulating the industry or the industry that is regulating NCC.
And some are already asking, is the NCC even in control here?
Yeah, that's the questions to ask. But whatever their issues are, they should not let it sip in this direction. Because the Nigerian consumer is already carrying more burden than he should be carrying, even in that telco industry. We're dealing with very poor service.
You took it right out of my mouth. Let's even talk about that a little. Some would say those people are getting away with murder.
They are.
With the quality or lack of it that they're providing as far as telcos are concerned.
It's not even just that. It is also the fact that these people actually steal money from you. You are being made to pay for services that you did not
subscribe for.
You didn't subscribe for it. They subscribe for you by fiat or by default, and they charge you for it. In fact, I remember I was on Yori Falani's show yesterday, and a consumer called in and said, I did not subscribe for some service. I called them to say I want to get off it. They say I should text something to something. I've been texting this thing like 10 times, and every day they deduct 20 naira.
For texting that.
How do you even get redress in that kind of situation? I mean, because people have complained, and it's like nobody's listening, and so, you know, they're just left to their fate.
You see, this is the burden of trust that NCC is not dealing with properly. If the consumer does not trust NCC to look out for them in these little ways in which they are being exploited, why should NCC expect the consumer to trust them, that they are looking out for their interests when it comes to bigger issues like tariffs and all? There are ways in which, for instance, in Nigeria, I have said it to the telcos many times, you should be able to give me a breakdown. I put my money in my account with you. That is trust. Now, because you have access to that money, because most of us are prepaid, you should be able to give me a retirement of how I spent that money with you. There should be a statement of account if I want it. I have made a request for that. Often nobody is paying any attention to it, because that is the only way you as a consumer can see whether they are stealing from you or they are not. But right now, once you put the money in their care, they can slam it with anything. You can't question, because you don't even know.
Shola, there is the issue of borrowed credit that seems to run faster than the normal. When you go out there to buy maybe a 750 or 1,000 or whatever, when you do buy, it doesn't run as fast as the one you borrow. Is anybody looking at that? Oh, you never noticed? Nobody's brought your attention to that.
Nobody's brought my attention to it, and I don't borrow. So, and I would advise Nigerians not to borrow. Believe me.
Why?
Because these are you just mentioned it. Number one, what they charge you for the borrowed credit, the amount of money you pay in interest for borrowing that credit is, I don't know what measurement.
And it looks like when you borrow, they're actually doing you technically doing you a favor. So they can charge you anyhow they want to charge you. You have borrowed and you have to pay.
These are the things that we want NCC to look out for. The NCC has access to their technical structures and how these things are done. And NCC is the most competent, because they are the technically competent agency to be able to call these people to order.
All right, let's talk about briefly, because we have just about 1 minute. The communication level between the government and the people. We just heard the minister say that. Well, I just heard this thing just like any other person. When it comes to government carrying out business for the people, because business is just like you said,
it's held in trust
for the people.
Yes.
So how do you assess that?
Okay, well, I understand that by the laws that set up NCC, just to give it some autonomy, it really doesn't need to clear all things with the minister before it does it. But for the benefit of working
in tandem.
Yes, in tandem with each other. I think courtesy just demands that if you're going to make such a decision, you should at least inform the ministry that is in charge of your sector. So where everybody starts behaving like I'm a kingpin in my own, and you know, people become very territorial. That's the problem. So in government right now, everybody's working in silos. Because nobody wants to feel as if I'm submitting to you or I'm subjective to you. So we need a government that puts us all first, and in doing so, understands that everybody needs to be carried along before you get in trying to pass policies and enforce them.
Shola Salako will have to say thank you so much. It's always a delight having you on. We could go on and on and on, and there'll be so much more to talk
make it a lot easier to talk a lot about
Thank
this
you very much.
Thanks
Thank you so
having
much.
me. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course, there's more to come on TVC Breakfast. Stay with us.